and I tell all my clients, you don't have to submit to those field sobriety tests. I mean, you don't have to. Now, most people don't know that, and most people are afraid to not comply with an officer's request, but you don't have to do that. As a matter of fact, I tell my clients not to do it because it's only going to hurt you. I mean, once an officer asks you to do field sobriety tests, there is no chance you're going home. What's good, people? I'm Attorney John Mobley. I have prosecuted and litigated complex civil and criminal cases for over 30 years, and I'm still actively litigating these cases today. My experience was forged in the legal trenches, going toe-to-toe with some of the best lawyers in the country, and I'm still actively litigating these cases. On this podcast, I'll be giving no-holds-barred, hard-hitting legal analysis on the legal issues that are gripping the nation. But you want to hear more than just legalese or legal mumbo-jumbo. It's important to have the perspective of a non-lawyer. So my assistant Kayla is joining me in the podcast, and she's going to ask me the tough questions for which you want the answers. So please join me on Legal Deep Dives and listen to me call it like I see it. What's good, people? Welcome to Legal Deep Dives. I'm here in the club room with Kayla. Kayla, I would ask you how you're doing, but everybody watching can tell you look like $1 million. If you had a custom suit and a pair of alligator shoes, you look almost as good as me.
I was going to ask to borrow one.
But you got to start somewhere.
Next time.
So we got a lot going on, a lot of exciting things to talk about. Also, I got the production team, Drew and Mike in the background. I want to give those guys a shout out. So before we start, I'd like everyone to go ahead and like and subscribe. And I do want to mention, I love getting all your comments and your questions. That makes the podcast a lot more interesting. I've always believed and said that, I want you to consider this podcast, not a lecture, but like a dialogue. Picture yourself being here in the club room, with your favorite libation in your hand, whether it be a scotch, a beer, a juice box. Hey, think about, sharing your comments, think about sharing your thoughts, asking your questions. And I would love for you guys to continue to do that. I love seeing the questions, love seeing the comments. And go ahead and like and subscribe to make sure you get all the legal updates and, of course, fashion tips from me and Kayla. So, Kayla, what are we talking about today?
The biggest shock ever. Tiger Woods gets in another car crash. This is what, his fourth?
Who's counting?
What's different about this one?
Well, that's bad news for Tiger that he got another DUI. And, of course, that resulted in him missing the Masters. The good news is I didn't get a DUI. And I was able to go to the Masters this year, which was great, which was phenomenal. And even had I gotten the DUI, I still would have gotten out of jail and I would have gone to the Masters anyway, because I don't care what people think, because I don't have any friends anyway. So, but yeah, I think it's unfortunate that Tiger got this DUI. And for people that don't know all the facts about the case, Tiger was driving near his home in his Land Rover or Range Rover. He's trying to pass another vehicle. He clips the back of the vehicle and resulting in him losing control of his SUV and it rolling over. He's actually miraculously not hurt. He's able to crawl out of the car and the cops get called. Now, from a factual standpoint, the cops show up. They call the DUI team almost immediately. They interview Tiger. They make him do field sobriety tests. He's got no alcohol in his system. They ask him to submit to a urine test, which he refuses. Now, he does tell them that he's injured. He's had a bunch of injuries and surgeries. They still make him do the field sobriety test anyway. Once he refuses to give the urine sample, they go ahead and they arrest him for DUI.
Yeah, and so...
and I do want to add that during the search, they found a couple of pills in his pocket, which I believe are hydrocodone, which are prescription pills that he takes for pain.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because most of the time when people hear DUI, they think alcohol, which was... if I'm not mistaken, a previous one with him?
Nope, the previous one was pills. Okay. It was Ambien.
So how is he still able, this is the second time, and he was suspected the last car crash to be in a DUI but wasn't tested. What was the difference between why he was tested this time and how is he still able to drive himself? Why doesn't he get a personal driver?
Well, I tell you what, I do want to address from a legal standpoint, there's a lot to unpack, but I do want to address the legal aspect about DUI. DUI is often mistakenly called drunk driving, and people refer to it as drunk driving. with the premise being you've had too much alcohol to drink and you're unable to drive. But really, DUI laws don't just involve alcohol. They just involve impairment by any substance whatsoever. So even if you're taking, prescription medication or illegal drugs, it doesn't have to be alcohol. You can have a valid prescription for medication, and if based on the medication, your ability to drive your vehicle safely is impaired, then you can be arrested for driving under the influence. And typically it is driving under the influence, not driving, under the influence of alcohol.
Right.
Or sometimes they call it driving while impaired. Alcohol is just one substance that can impair, and obviously it's the most common substance that one consumes that impairs their driving. So yes, you can get a DUI even if you haven't had a drop of alcohol, even if you're taking medication for which you have a valid prescription. If it impairs your ability to safely operate your vehicle, then you can get a DUI.
And so what about the difference? Why was he tested this time? What was the difference between how he was acting last time versus this time? What made them make that decision that he needed to be arrested here and now?
Well, I got to tell you, every DUI case has some degree of subjectivity. And when I say subjectivity, it's going to be based on the officer's observations. Because you kind of have to keep in mind that, on the side of the road, you typically don't have blood tests. And, everybody looks different. So if you have arguably 50 different law enforcement officers observing 50 different people, they're all not going to have the same observations and opinions on that person's demeanor, and so as far as the other case, just because someone's involved in a wreck does not mean it involves, alcohol or driving under the influence. Bad accident happens all the time because people exercise bad judgment, going too fast, distracted driving on their phone, changing the station on the radio. We all do it. It's not safe, but we all do it. We're thinking, hey, we're going slow enough.
Looking at a billboard.
Looking at billboards. Well, that's not a bad reason. That's, but yeah, all those things can happen while you're driving. So now in this case, and I also want to kind of give a statement about what field sobriety tests are, because I mentioned they asked them to do field sobriety tests. Field sobriety tests are very standard. Officers are trained to administer them at the academy when they get their law enforcement certification. But basically, a field sobriety test or roadside test that they ask the drivers to do if they are under the suspicion of driving under the influence. They typically involve, balance, being able to say your alphabet backwards, counting backwards, standing on one leg. There's this thing called the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, and they ask them to perform those tests. And but I will tell everybody, and I tell all my clients, you don't have to submit to those field sobriety tests. You don't have to. Now, most people don't know that, and most people are afraid to not comply with an officer's request, but you don't have to do that. As a matter of fact, I tell my clients not to do it because it's only going to hurt you. Once an officer asks you to do field sobriety tests, there is no chance you're going home. It's just, that means they suspect something, So doing field sobriety tests is something you don't have to do. Never do it. Don't be afraid of getting arrested. They're probably going to arrest you anyway. All you're doing is helping them build a case against you.
Right.
And they are never going to say you passed.
Yeah. And so going off the field sobriety test, you said it can harm you if you do them. What about refusing the urine sample? It was under Trenton's law that if you refuse, it's a criminal penalty. How is this going to harm him, or how is it going to help him that he did not do the urine test?
Well, same thing with, I advise all my clients, if you're ever arrested for suspicion of DUI, if they ask you to take a breath test or give a blood test or give a urine sample, the answer is no. Just don't do it. And I'll tell you why, because, yes, in most jurisdictions, there is a penalty. It's normally not criminal. It's normally civil. And when I say civil, it's typically a suspension of your driver's license. Like in South Carolina, if you don't take the breath test, they suspend your license. But a couple things. Number one, you can get a provisional license. You can appeal that and get a provisional license. And number two, again, all you're doing is helping them build a case against you. Okay? And this is what always happens if you look at any DUI case. Again, once they suspect you of driving under the influence, if you don't take the field sobriety test and you don't take the breath test or give the sample, you know what they're going to do? They're going to arrest you anyway, which is what they did to Tiger.
But can they use it as evidence of guilt?
You can argue that.
Okay.
They will argue that, of course. But I mean, hey, I'd rather them argue that all day long because they still don't have the evidence.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've tried so many DUI cases over the years, and I've got no problem telling a jury that a person has an absolute constitutional right not to incriminate himself. A person that the law does not require a person to take a breath test. The law does not require a person to submit to a field sobriety test. And what they have to do is prove that you were under the influence and couldn't drive. And I think the thing is, so number one, they don't have any evidence. And number two, when they don't have that evidence and they arrest a person anyway, it allows me to tell the jury, this person is going to be arrested no matter what he did. You know?
Well, what about the pills in his pocket, and what about him admitting that he had taken prescription drugs previously in the day?
Well, let's kind of
how does that affect him?
Well, let's kind of talk about, Tiger's case. There are a lot of things about his case. I'm going to kind of segue into how I defend the case.
Yeah, tell me about that.
And, out of the gate, what I don't like is Tiger's initial statement. Tiger's initial statement is pretty much, hey, I'm going to rehab. I need to get help.
I'm going out the country.
Yeah. I don't like that at all. Okay. That is not how I handle defense. I'm just telling anybody out there, if they get in trouble and their plan and their desire is to put their tail between their legs and go quietly in the night, I am not the lawyer you want to hire. That is not how I do it. I like to, get off the bench putting points on the board. I would have completely taken control of this narrative early on. Because this is how the narrative, and this is how I see this case, that basically you have an auto accident.
A bad one.
No, nobody was hurt.
Well, the car was.
The car was hurt. Nobody was hurt. It was a routine accident where nobody's hurt. You got a driver who's very cooperative with the police, who's very polite and very calm. And although this driver had to crawl out of his vehicle, I mean, he clearly suffered some injuries. It's very likely.
Yeah.
If it was anybody else, they would have given this person a ticket and called EMS and made sure he got checked out because he probably had a concussion. Well, that's not what they did in this case.
No.
Okay. They see it's Tiger Woods. So immediately they send out a DUI team. They don't offer this man medical assistance. They don't, call EMS. They get him checked out. They immediately start focusing on, hey, this is Tiger Woods. Let's try to build a case for DUI. That's what happened. And the thing is, when they asked him to do field sobriety tests, I mean, Tiger tells them, it's on the tape, that, hey, he's had 7 back surgeries.
Leg surgeries, ankle.
20 surgeries. His ankle is fused. And they say, okay, well, do the field sobriety test anyway. And, granted, they say they had him do him sitting down.
Kind of. I mean, he was just leaning against the car. It wasn't even fully sitting down.
And the guy had just been involved in an accident for which his car rolled over. So, and under those circumstances, they asked him to do field sobriety tests. And I will tell you this, and this is what I did when I was trying DUI cases. I don't try them anymore. When you take a look, get online, you look at those field sobriety tests they ask people to do. Try to do them. Try to do them sober.
I saw a bunch of comments about that too. I would not have passed this sober. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, try to do them sober, and on the side of the road, under extreme stress, uneven pavement, cars driving by, people looking. You're terrified because you've been in an accident. You're shaken up. You got the cops standing over you. You got the sirens. You hear them coming over the radio. And you're trying to stand on one leg and count backwards in French. All right, now do it again. All right, now say your alphabet, count backwards from H. I mean, these are things people can't do sober.
Yeah.
And so my point is, this is what they had him do. And then he blew, again, he had no alcohol in his system. They concede there was no alcohol in his system. And when he refuses to give him urine sample, remember what I said a little while ago about what they're going to do anyway? They arrested him anyway.
Yeah.
So
he was visibly shocked about that too.
He wasn't acting erratic. He wasn't, acting belligerent and erratic, like, oh my God, he's clearly off his rocker. I mean, so that's my point. I mean, so they do not have the best case. What he is guilty of is being Tiger Woods. That's what he's guilty of. And yes, he had prescription medication on him, but he had a valid prescription for it. I mean, man's in a lot of pain.
Which, didn't they request a subpoena for that?
Yeah.
How can they get out of handing those over?
Well, I mean, and his lawyer is right to contest it because this is what they've done. They have requested all of prescription records for all of his medication for about a 3-month period prior to the accident.
Okay.
None of that is relevant. What's relevant is if he was impaired on that specific day. Okay? So it doesn't matter if he's on 500,000 grams of medication. I mean, what's relevant is what he was taking that day on the day he was driving. Okay? So they're on a fishing exhibition. And he's got a right to privacy. They don't have any right to know everything he's on. He may be on medication for other matters that are not related. And again, they have the medication that he had on his person. They're going to test that, of course, and they're going to find out what it is. I am certain that if they requested his attorney give them, a limited release for a prescription for that particular medicine, but even still, as I sit here and think about it, it doesn't matter if he had a prescription or not. Because even if he had a valid prescription, if he was impaired, he had too much in the system, it's still guilty of DUI. On the other hand, if he didn't have a prescription, and they're trying to argue he had illegal possession of a controlled substance, that's a whole other crime that he's not under investigation for.
Right.
So, I mean, they're on a major fishing exhibition, and I'm telling you again, if there's anybody except for Tiger Woods, that person would have got a ticket and would have been given EMS treatment and went on his way. But now that it's Tiger, everybody's trying to make a big case, and that's what I would tell a jury, that this is what happened. You have an accident where nobody was seriously hurt. This person had no real evidence of impairment. They should have given him medical treatment. They didn't do that. And now what they want to do is hold up Tiger and try to ban him a criminal. I would also get my experts ready. I would, and a lot of times you get experts just to kind of be thorough. I would likely get an accident reconstruction expert. I'd want to download that crash data recorder or event data recorder that's on the vehicle. I mean, you just want to be, there may be an issue with the car. I don't know. I mean, you want to make sure there's no mechanical malfunction that contributed to the accident. You also want to make sure you get that vehicle examined, tires aren't bald, things like that. Any mechanical thing on the vehicle that might have contributed to the accident, so you could have some evidence, objective evidence, that the accident was not caused by user error, but likely caused or contributed to by mechanical failure of the vehicle. Okay. I would also likely want to get my medical team in. I'd want a biomechanical engineer to look at that crash and go, yeah, this dude probably hit it, and the accident reconstruction expert and say, hey, this guy probably hit his head in this accident. His body hit something in that accident. It is likely he suffered a concussion.
And was in shock, and that's why he was able to crawl out.
Exactly. I mean, and people will do that. There'll be people that have serious injuries.
Adrenaline, yeah. And
adrenaline gets them out of that scene, and they don't realize they got a broken leg, they got a broken arm, or they've been shot,
Yeah.
But if there was any issue regarding him nodding off or any testimony that he appeared to be somewhat out of his faculties, well, having a mild concussion would be consistent with why someone might appear out of it.
And not be able to do the test.
But the thing is, he was still lucid, though. I mean, he still was able to answer questions. He was lucid. He was not whatever impairment they're alleging he had. He was lucid. He was able to say, hey, this is what's going on with my body. He even told them, hey, he said that he was looking at his phone.
He was on the phone with the president.
Yeah, there you go. That's Trump. He would tell you Tiger's the greatest golfer in history. He almost beat Donald Trump one time.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, he taught Tiger how to play. Tiger's favorite golf course is Trump National Golf Club. He said it's the best, greatest golf course in the world.
Well, now we'll need Tiger's opinion on that. So what does this mean for his career? Are we going to see Tiger Woods' resume on Indeed? Is he going to be scrolling through looking for a new job?
Tiger's going to be just fine. I mean, Tiger is a $1 billion brand. He is just a beloved figure in the golf community. And when you look at the circumstance of which he's charged with, I mean, he's not charged with having cocaine, or illegal drugs. Hey, this is a man that everyone knows has had a number of surgeries and physical injuries and in pain every day. And he is still trying to get out there and compete and be a part of the sport and give back to the sport.
He wants his popsicles.
He likes his popsicles. I mean, Tiger Woods famously, when he won the U.S. Open one year against Rocco Mediate in like triple or quadruple overtime. I mean, as soon as he won that last hole, he left the course and immediately got knee surgery. I mean, he beat the entire PGA tour on one friggin' leg. I mean, so yeah, he's got some injuries. People know about it. He's got some pain. He's trying to battle back from it. But I don't think it's going to harm his his brand.
His reputation.
Nothing.
Okay.
Not in the eyes of the golf community.
Well, I guess it's already kind of been a little ruined since this isn't really the first one. Well, thanks for having me and talking to me about that. I'm sure after spending your, day at the Masters, you could probably beat Tiger Woods and beat him out of his own game. But what are your final thoughts on this?
Well, Kayla, as always, I got to call it like I see it. I think this is a very defendable case. I think that Tiger Woods' only crime in this case is the only thing he's guilty of is being Tiger Woods. I think he's going to get a good result. I think he's being persecuted for being Tiger Woods. And, I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. And I want to thank everybody for listening today. And, that's what I think. You might not agree. I really don't give a damn. But I would love for you to post your comments and tell me what you think. Do you think Tiger's being persecuted? Or do you think he was legitimately arrested for the DUI? Do me a favor, as always, post your comments, post your questions, and call it like you see it. That's it.